So I thought in honor of Khusanov's move from Lens to Manchester City, which became one of the biggest transfers in Asian football history, I thought in today's video, let's look back and grade the biggest Asian football transfers. And if you're a big fan of Asian football, but more specifically the Iranian national team, this is the channel that you need to be at, so make sure to subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, make sure to like the video if you haven't already, because that's what the goated subscribers do. So to jump right into it, we're going to start from number 7 all the way to number 1. If we did a whole top 10, I think the video would get a little bit too long, so I decided to go from 7 to 1 in this video. I as well will add an honorable mention, so the player that just missed out on making the top 7. So without further ado, the honorable mention is Shinji Kagawa going from Borussia Dortmund to Manchester United back in 2012 for 13 million euros. I have some of the fondest memories when it comes to Shinji Kagawa. I think he was the pioneer of modern day Asian footballers. Like, he was Son before Son was even a thing. That guy was so good when he was playing for Dortmund before this move to Manchester United. And don't get me wrong, I think he was pretty good at Manchester United. I think there was definitely that Asian footballer tax where he didn't quite get the praise that he should have gone because he was an Asian footballer. And especially the footballers would get no praise in Europe. Absolutely none. Those guys were punching air out there fighting for their lives to get any ounce of credit in any league in Europe.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
And I think he was definitely getting that at Dortmund. And then when he did make that jump, which I definitely rate, it's an ambitious jump and it helped pave the path for other footballers in the Premier League, like Son, eventually years down the line, helped create these future opportunities. And he did win a Premier League title with Manchester United. I don't think he was definitely like a slam dunk like he was at Dortmund, but he was still pretty good, all things considered. So I would give this one a solid 8 out of 10. But moving on to our top 7. And at number 7, it is Ali Reza Jahanbakhsh moving from AZ Alkmaar to Brighton and Hove Albion for 19 million euros back in 2018. Man, oh man, it's quite unfortunate. My favorite player is number 7 on this list. And you may be thinking to yourselves, Sean, this should be pretty good. It's your favorite guy. It's Jahanbakhsh. It's kind of dope he's made the list. No, it is not great he's made the list, because this transfer absolutely ruined his career, in my opinion. My guy was on top of the world, just won the Golden Boot for AZ Alkmaar. Iran had a great couple of matches in the 2018 World Cup. He was one of the budding stars for Iranian football, holds the record for the biggest transfer for an Iranian footballer. He goes to the Premier League, tries to help pave that path for Iranian footballers to go and play in that league, because we generally haven't had any successful Iranians play in England, and it's an absolute dumpster fire to say the least. His first year, no goals, no assists. Second year, he doesn't really play much until that first game against Bournemouth, gets his first goal, then scores the absolute beauty bicycle kick against Chelsea, and you think all is well, everything's gonna start panning out. He starts getting consistent game time, and then COVID happened, lockdown happened. He doesn't get any more game time pretty much after that. He tries to give it another go the following year in 2021, and it was just kind of like the 2018-19 season on repeat, and it was just not fun to watch. I think the ambition was there from Jahanbakhsh. He tried his best. I just think Brighton wasn't the right club for him at the time. Imagine if he made that move to Leicester like he was rumored to, but instead ended up going to Brighton. I think the timing was very unfortunate for him, because now you look at Brighton, they play free-flowing attacking football, and it would have suited him, but back then it was that hardcore defense under Chris Hughton. I think definitely there was a little bit more attacking emphasis when Graham Potter came in, but it didn't seem like the guy even rated Jahanbakhsh. He would never play him, would lie to him, and it was just so unfortunate. Putting my bias aside, I think I gotta give this one a solid 3 out of 10. When you add all the context, he still played pretty well when he was given those opportunities. Like I mentioned, the game against Bournemouth when he scored, the bicycle kick against Chelsea, he won a Premier League goal of the month, I I don't know if that means much for any of you. I don't think he was a bad player. I just think the circumstances were unfortunate and just the tactics and managers didn't help his case. They didn't favor him. And definitely this transfer is one I am not super loving talking about, but it is number 7 on our list. Moving on to number 6 and number 5, it's going to be the same player. It is Hideyoshi Nakata when he moved from Paraguay to Roma for 21.7 million euros back in 2000, and then as well when he moved from Roma to Parma for 28.4 million euros in 2001. So Nakata fills up the number 6 and number 5 spot on this list. That's why I wanted to add an honorable mention, because I don't want to feel like I'm cheating you guys out of an extra player slot in this list. But he does fill up 2 of the slots at number 6 and at number 5. Nakata was kind of like the David Beckham of Asian football at the time. My guy was a journeyman. He was a pioneer of fashion and bringing that football and business aspect together, definitely in the Asian world. But in regards to his time in Syria, it wasn't bad. It wasn't good. I definitely think he was a lot better at Roma than he was at Parma. Yes, he did win a Coppa Italia at Parma, but he scored less goals. He played less games for them. So I would give his first move from Perugia to Roma, that is at number 6, a solid 6 out of 10. And then his move from Roma to Parma, which is number 5, a 5 out of 10. Moving on to number 4, it is Heung-min's son moving from Bayer Leverkusen to Tottenham for 30 million euros back in 2015. I mean, I think this is quite a no-brainer as the best transfer on this list. Son has cemented himself as one of the Tottenham GOATs, one of the Premier League GOATs, one of, if not the greatest Asian footballer in Premier League history. The only problem is he joined Tottenham, thus he hasn't won any trophies. That is the only damper I have to say with this move. He has won golden boots. He has been to a Champions League final. He has been close to winning a Premier League, but he doesn't have any trophies. This was definitely the pinnacle of all pinnacles when it comes to big Asian football transfers. Definitely helped paving the path for other Asian footballers to play in the Premier League, especially for South Korean and Japanese players. I think what's quite interesting is Kagawa was not nearly or even close to as good as what Son has been for Tottenham in the Premier League, but Kagawa was able to win a Premier League title, and I don't think Son is ever going to be able to win a Premier League title if he stays at Tottenham. I think it definitely benefited him to join a team like Tottenham because they're not like the likes of Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United and whatnot, where he would have won a trophy, but he's kind of like more of the small fish in the big pond, and with Tottenham he's more of the big fish in the small pond. Not obviously in the beginning, but over time, if you can prove yourself, you can become that type of player, which he has. He's the captain of the team, but for the fact he hasn't been able to win a trophy for how long he has been there, he's been there for 10 years, it's very close to a 10 out of 10, but I have to give it a 9 out of 10. But if there was any transfer to give a 10 out of 10 to, I can understand if you'd give this one that rating. Next up at number 3, it is Shoya Nakajima moving from Portimonense to Al Duhai for 35 million euros back in 2017. Yeah, I think we just went from the best transfer to the worst transfer on this list because this transfer was bad. Nakajima only made about 7 appearances for Al Duhai. It was kind of an interesting move because he was quite successful in Portugal with Portimonense and then decides to go to the Qatari League. He only scored 1 goal as an attacker. I mean, it was in the Asian Champions League, but it wasn't a good stint at all. And I think it's hands down the worst transfer in this list. So I'm gonna give it a solid 1 out of 10. And now moving on to the player that inspired this video. It is Abdukodir Khusanov's move from Lens to Manchester City for 40 million euros and just happened this year in 2025. Obviously, this transfer is to be determined, TBD, but I think for the sake of the video, I should give a maybe predicted rating of how I think everything will pan out for Khusanov at Manchester City. At the time of recording, he just had his debut against Chelsea. It didn't go fantastically, to say the least. He made a mistake, which led to Chelsea's goal. He got subbed off at around the 55th minute, I believe. And there's a handful of people that are kind of on his back about the performance. I didn't expect him to be a slam dunk from the get-go with Manchester City. I mean, it's Manchester City, arguably the best team in the last 5 years across the entire world. I firmly believe Khusanov will pan out for Manchester City. I think he's a beast. I talked about it in my Asia's Best Combined XI, how he's a beast. I think he could become Asia's best defender. He's definitely going to win trophies. There's no shadow of a doubt, so he's not going to be in the same boat as Son, but it's a matter of being that Guardiola, Ruben Diaz for Manchester City. Can he cement himself as the main defender for this team? Or is he just going to be another Mangala for all we know? I hope not, and I don't think so. I think the trophy aspect, as I said, is inevitable, so it definitely bumps up his grade because he will win trophies. But will he be a key piece in winning those trophies? Will he be successful? Will he cement his name as being that first Uzbekistan player to play in the Premier League? Can he be that cornerstone, that path for other Uzbekistan players to go to the Premier League? He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but if there's a man to do it, it is Khusanov. I back the White Wolves so much in every video I talk about, so I'm not going to stop here for one of their best players. So Khusanov, I think the rating I will give him at the end of all of this, we might look back on this years down the line, I think he'll be a solid 7 out of 10 for Manchester City. And now moving on to the final player, the number 1 player on this list, and that is Min-jae going from Napoli to Bayern Munich for 50 million euros back in 2023. Good old Min-jae. The Khusanov before the Khusanov, you could say, was the pillar cornerstone of why Napoli won the Scudetto just a few years ago, moved to Bayern Munich, and things have just kind of been up in the air. This one's a little bit as well TBD, but there has been now a good season, 2 years under his belt with this team, so we could give this a little bit of a rating. I think Min-jae's a beast as well. I think if things keep going well, where he stays in Europe for a long period of time, maybe not with Bayern Munich, for maybe other European clubs, wins a couple more trophies like he did at Napoli, I think he could go down as one of the greatest Asian defenders. We just got to see if he can handle the criticism, the pressure, because definitely at Bayern Munich, he's always going to be a scapegoat. That is the reality for all Asian footballers. For every single player that we've mentioned on this list that have gone to big European clubs, and any other Asian footballers that go to European clubs, they'll always be the scapegoat. They're always going to be the easy target. They're always going to be the players to point the finger and blame at. And as well, Asian footballers are just not that highly rated when they go to Europe. It's unfortunate, but that's just the truth. They have to work 10 times harder than other footballers to succeed and just get the baseline praise that the other European players get in Europe. But that's just the bias. That's just how the game goes. I think Min-jae will be able to handle that. And I think all things considered, he's been a pretty good defender for Bayern Munich during this transitional period the club has been going through. I think this year they'll win the Bundesliga title under Vincent Kompany. Kompany seems to like Min-jae. He fits his style of defender he wants. So I think when you look at this move, I think it's definitely an upgrade from Napoli, because Napoli are kind of a shadow of themselves since they won that Scudetto title when Min-jae was there. He was very close to winning a Champions League just a year or so ago when Bayern Munich narrowly lost to Real Madrid thanks to Joselu, out of all people, that bailed Real Madrid out of that tie. So I think he will gain trophies. I don't think he'll be a goated center back in the Bundesliga. I think he'll probably see success elsewhere, but for this move, I would probably give it a solid 7 out of 10. So boys and girls, that's going to be the end of today's video. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. How would you guys rate these transfers? You can make a list like how I did for this video in the comments down below. Let's compare, contrast, which one of mine did you guys agree with, disagree with. Let me know your guys' thoughts. As I said, if you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Subscribe right now. And if you guys like this type of video and want me to look back at other records or other Asian football accolades, let me know in the comments down below. So smash the like button on today's video, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and boys and girls, I hope you'll have a lovely day.